Room bookings are obviously has been ongoing. I have a few points I want to get to. Under our society is that the communication wasn't very good down the line, so I want to make sure that the communication from our office to the clubs is as good as it can be and streamline the process that way.
Thank you, candidates. Would anyone like to use their additional response time? Okay, let's move on to the next question. This year, the AMS has put a cap on the number of clubs due to resources. Do you think the current club number is sustainable, and how will you ensure clubs continue to be supported? We'll be starting with William.
Of course, the club cap is obviously a hot topic as of late. I do believe that the main priority that we have as VP Administration and as our office is to prioritize the quality and the quantity of support that we give the clubs that we currently have. I do understand the rationale behind the clubs cap. It is definitely something that we should look into further down the line once you see the true impacts of what the clubs cap is to the AMS deficit.
Thank you, candidates.
Clubs are an integral part of our university, and I feel that having a club cap can, in some cases, impact how students can make communities. And what I want to introduce is having clubs that students actually want. The newer clubs that we open are the ones that the students want. What I would propose to the AMS would be a system where after the applications for clubs, students can vote which clubs they would want to be open.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, would you like to use your additional response? Go ahead.
I would like to add, well, this is obviously an unfortunate situation, and we do not want to limit the amount of clubs. We have to be realistic, and we have to make sure we don't spread our resources too thin in that regard, and make sure that we have a responsibility that we keep to the current clubs, making sure that they get what they need. I'm afraid that any such initiatives would increase the paperwork load and make the process even slower and less effective.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, moving on to our next question. Sustainability is a large part of your portfolio, and you will also be in charge of creating the annual sustainability report. What are your sustainability goals, and how do you plan to achieve them? Starting with Lokesh.
So, one of the things that especially right now would be completing all the goals that are in the AMS Sustainability Action Plan for 2026. Further down the line, I want to make a platform where the restaurants in the nest and possibly in the future overall Ubyssey can list the surplus food that they have for bare minimum costs, and which would help food insecurity and reduce food wastage. And other than that, I would just build on what we currently have.
Thank you, candidate. William, you can go ahead.
As everyone knows, the AMS Sustainability Action Plan that was released in 2023 is up for review in 2026. I look forward to creating a sustainability action plan that is more specific and measurable than the current one. While I do agree with many of the missions outlined in the previous ASAP in 2023, we do need a more data-driven approach that can allow us to hold ourselves accountable to more specific goals. Some steps have been taken in that direction recently with the greenhouse gas inventory that has been made, but more such things need to be implemented, and I look forward to producing full-scale ASAP 2030 report within the first 6 months of my term.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, our next question is from a audience member. What are your views on the friendlier reusable cup program that has attracted much scrutiny? How should we move forward? We'll be starting with William.
Yeah, I've heard many questions about the friendlier program. Yeah, specifically, I do think that it is an initiative that was put in place with the right intentions in mind. Obviously, there have been some pushback from students. Change is always a little bit difficult. I do feel confident that we can implement it in a way that will be supported by all students. And I think it's an important aspect of sustainability for our waste footprint as AMS. However, I'm more focused on the big picture of the sustainability goals and policy that we can implement from my environmental policy background as the AMS.
Thank you, candidate.
I also agree that even though there has been a lot of pushback regarding the friendly containers, I believe the initiative was in the right place, and I would move forward with more better execution and implementing it in a larger scale so that it's accepted by more students.
Thank you, candidate. Go ahead, Dijon Swanker.
I believe that programs such as the Friendlier Cups, the dissent comes from a similar theme of lack of communication from the sustainability team of the AMS. When I was speaking with some of the leaders of the constituencies, they mentioned that sustainability was an issue with them, or they were not notified very well. I do want to form a constituency sustainability caucus to make sure that we have informed communication with the constituencies on campus.
Thank you. Okay, next question. You'll be overseeing one of the largest staff out of all the executive offices. How do you approach team management, and what tone would you set for your staff? Starting with Lokesh.
For the staff that I would have, I do not prefer having a boss and employee kind of environment. I rather prefer having an environment where I would be seen as a leader, and my staff would feel comfortable reaching out to me, even if it comes to disagreeing with me. And that leads to a much more healthy environment. The more voices come up, the better the admin system would work.
Thank you, candidate. William?
Yes, so staff is obviously the backbone of what I'm going to be doing as VP administration. I feel confident with my background in sustainability and studying environmental policy that I will have the correct people around me in order to maintain a strong presence as a leader, however, give the staff the independence that they need to create real change and bring down those administrative barriers per se. I'm confident I can find staff that will be properly equipped for the job, and I look forward to working with my club's administrator as well, and using their experience towards improving the experience for clubs across the AMS.
Thank you, candidate. Would anyone like to use their additional response time? Okay, moving on. The Hatch Art Gallery is also part of your portfolio. What is your vision for the space, and how do you plan to utilize it? Starting with William.
Yes, of course. The Hatch Art Gallery is a very valuable part of the AMS Nest. I do look forward to opening it to certain events. I understand that it's been open to bookings somewhat recently, which has lightened the load, the administrative load on the Nest. In terms of specifics, I'm not an expert in the matter of arts, and I look forward to collaborating with my Hatch Art Gallery coordinator to make sure that that is run in the most effective way.
Thank you, candidates.
I do not have specific plans, but I would try my best to reach out to clubs who are art focused, as a lot of the clubs do not know which rooms are available for bookings, and reach out to art specific clubs and constituencies to promote the club room, the art gallery, and I would work with my staff to make it easier for other clubs as well.
Thank you, candidates. And with that, we'll be moving on to closing remarks. Lokesh, you're first.
So I believe student clubs are heart of campus community, and I don't think admin work should slow them down. My commitment would be towards practical improvements and reducing food wastage. And I would try my best to reduce the friction and improve transparency. I would use as much as of the experience that I have being a CS student, being a project manager, or being a residence advisor to make the life of students in Ubyssey a better place.
Thank you, candidates. Molly?
So I believe much has been said already, but I wanted to reiterate specifically what I intend to achieve as VP Administration. In terms of clubs, I want to guarantee lightning fast room bookings by adding manpower to that issue. I also want to add additional club infrastructure. We have room for 20 new club lockers in the AMS, as well as some potential budget for new shelving and renovations to club rooms. I also want to form a sustainability caucus so that the sustainability goals of the AMS can be more effectively transmitted to the constituencies and hence their clubs. And like I mentioned multiple times, sustainability is what I do. This is the reason I'm here. I study environmental policy, and I will bring that experience and the experience running one of the largest student-run charter organizations on campus to this job, and I'm confident I can deliver on my promises. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. And with that, we are at the end of the VP Administration debate. We'll be back at 1:50 for VP Finance.
Welcome back. We're going to get started with the VP Finance debate, and I'll turn it right to you, Ubyssey.
Thank you. Okay, welcome candidates to the VP Finance debate. We're getting started. To go over some housekeeping rules, candidates are not permitted to use laptops. You can have a pencil and a piece of paper. You all have 1 minute to make an opening statement at the outset, and then 1 minute to make a closing statement after all the questions are done. There is an online form being used to collect audience questions, and a reminder that candidates and volunteers from any of your campaigns cannot submit questions. You will each have 45 seconds to address moderator and audience questions, followed by an additional 30 seconds response time if you'd like to use it. I will give you a 15 and 5-second warning, and please stop talking when your time is up. And yeah, does anyone have any questions before we get started? Okay, we will be starting with opening remarks then. We're going to start with Audrey and then go this way.
Hi everyone. My name is Audrey and I'm in the Diploma in Accounting program, which is considered 5th year undergrad program. There has never been a better time to automate accounting workflows. So we can use intake forms instead of email chains, automated reimbursements and budget approvals, integrated systems with proper audit trails to be in alignment with the accounting department needs. When we reduce such manual processes, we can free up time for what actually requires the human judgment, which is on strategic planning, financial oversight, and long-term sustainability of the finance department. I plan to address the structure deficit by consolidating vendors, reviewing fee and grant structures, reducing administration inefficiencies. At the same time, we should grow our revenue through strategic sponsorship and partnership outreach, including with student startups, and making NAS not just a hallway between the bus loop and the classrooms, but also really a destination, a space for students.
Thank you, candidate. Just a reminder to candidates to just make sure you're speaking into the mic for the live streams. Okay, come on. Yeah.
There we go. Hey everybody, my name is Iman Dhaliwal. I'm running to be AMS VP Finance. I am a solder student majoring in finance. Just to give a little bit of background about who I am, firstly I'll start off with a little bit of community service I've done. I volunteered with the Vancouver Police Department, where I'm grateful to have been Youth Volunteer of the Year. I also got the Outstanding Community Youth Award from the Township of Langley, and I served in the British Columbia and Fraser Valley Youth Parliament. Throughout all those experiences, I've been able to advocate for youth, cut educational costs, and advocate for that in the Legislative Assembly of BC, launch a mental health puppies event for students, and ensure that diversity and inclusivity initiatives have been supported amongst the Township of Langley and general community. Now, to get into a little bit of my experience about finance, I went to the University of Toronto before coming to the better university, Ubyssey. And while I was at University of Toronto, I managed a $600K portfolio and I managed $200K towards students' events. I have experience managing budget, and about my platform and what I want to do. AMS businesses have been underperforming their revenues. There has not been financial transparency, and I want to make sure students' input and the money actually goes towards what students want.
Thank you, candidate. Nathan?
Hi everyone, my name is Nathan and I am running for VP Finance. I'm a 5th year economics and data science student, and I'm the current AVP Finance, where I help oversee a $35 million budget. I've led training workshops for over 400 treasurers. I've changed our asset allocation to bring in an estimated $250,000 in additional revenue, and I've been at core support for club treasurers, their questions and their inquiries. And that's exactly why I'm running. As a former club treasurer, I have a unique perspective of seeing the issues that students face on a daily basis. I want to continue supporting clubs, increase mental health benefits, and invest in our services like the food bank. We can't afford a VP Finance that's learning on the job. The term is only for 1 year, and we need someone that's experienced, knowledgeable, and ready to act immediately. I know the AMS, I know its financial systems, its procedures, and its structure, and that's why I'm ready for you. I'm ready for a better AMS, and I'm ready on day one.
Thank you, candidate. Okay. The AMS is facing an unexpected deficit this year, and there have been continued poor sales at AMS-owned businesses. Do you think the AMS should continue to operate businesses despite their revenue loss, and how will you address this? We'll be starting with Iman.
Amazing, yeah, this was right at the forefront of my platform. One thing, AMS businesses have been running really poorly. They haven't been meeting their revenue targets, and there's reasons for this. One, student inputs. I've spoken to countless clubs, countless students. Their input is not being taken into consideration into these AMS businesses. A couple things off the top of my head: prices are way too high. They're not even competitive amongst other restaurants on campus. Why would a student go to the Gala if they could go somewhere else, a 5-minute walk, and get way cheaper food? Other things that need to be taken into consideration is that the consumers are students. We need to market it as students. Over the last year, there's been no marketing efforts, barely any social media posts. This was not what we want. I want to work with the marketing department to have an aligned vision to actually market to students and make
Thank
sure
you,
AMS
candidate.
Yeah, 100%. Businesses were under forecasted by revenue around $400,000 this year. So definitely, I agree 100% with Iman. We need more student input, more focus groups, more surveys. We also need to take the next step, right? Working with Conference and Catering, they filmed a movie and 2 commercials this year. How do we enhance and grow our revenue? Working with the gallery managers who curate an experience that is different from our competitors, right? We have Brown, Sports Illustrated. How do we create an experience that for students and for their culture? Blind taste testing of menu items. I think that's really important. Doing a competitive and comparative analysis with menu items from Honor Roll and then also their competitors. And I think for example, fundraiser cookies, right? This is something
Thank you, candidate. Audrey?
So I'll take this from a more strategic perspective. If you have 4 million revenue and you have 5 million expenses, you are not going to be profitable. So it's very important to look at both, to expand revenue through more partnership outreach, and also look at the current tenants. Are they paying market rates? And it's very important to actually assess the operational efficiencies to make sure that we achieve the highest cost efficiency. So that actually requires tightening my budgetary discipline through expenditure review with the financial controller, automation wherever it's possible. And I was just at the Robson Ubyssey, and they had a brand new vacuum, which is like a robot vacuum that.
Thank you, candidate. Would anyone like to use their additional response time?
Yes, I would. One question I have, and this is super important to understand, is when you're in the AMS, you have to take action immediately. My friend here has been in the AMS for the last year, yet AMS businesses have not taken student input. They have been underperforming their revenue forecast. First of all, revenue forecasts are supposed to be conservative in the first place. Why are they underperforming, and why is student input not being taken into consideration right away? I can tell you, I've spoken to countless clubs, countless students. I know what to do, and I'm going to put that into effect immediately. It has not been done over the last year, and the AMS cannot afford to have a candidate that will not implement
Thank you,
student input.
candidate. Nathan, did you want to use your additional response time?
Yeah, so we haven't had external student input, but we have had internal focus groups, internal surveys that have been done within the AMS. And it's something that I'm looking to continue to expand, and I do agree with them on. We need more student input, especially students that are using our businesses, because this is it's a student market, and we need to focus on students first.
Thank you, candidate. Moving on. Would you like to use your additional response time, Audrey?
Yeah, so there's 2 points. First, that we need to increase foot traffic, and that can be converted into can be used into a win-win situation. So we'll have a student exhibit, student performance. If you've been to the Seattle Modern Art Museum, you've seen the happy little clouds hanging in the hallway, and that would be definitely an attraction. Another thing is to really look into cross-training of staff to improve cost efficiencies.
Okay. Thank you, candidate. Moving on to the next question. If the referendum for the several fee increases failed this election, where do you think costs could be saved in the budget? We'll be starting with Nathan.
Yeah, definitely. I think that looking at things where it's not as student-facing, things like awards gala, teachers and learning gala, these are costs that a student won't actually necessarily, it's not like a focus with the student, right? Like these core services that we're focusing on, stuff like SASC, the food bank. This is like a core service that's specific with these students, and I think that focusing on that in particular instead of just like these overhead costs, administrative costs.
Thank you, candidate. Audrey.
So again, 2 points. First is about improving financial sustainability by optimizing operations. So we should also try to simplify all kinds of structures, fee and grant structure, reducing admin inefficiencies, and also expand expand our revenue, and but also in the short term, essential services they should continue because AMS we already have existing financial tools, including reserves and the ability to make inter-fund transfers whenever it's necessary. And my goal is to really ensure student services they do remain stable while building a more resilient financial model for the long run of the AMS.
Thank you, candidate. Iman?
Firstly, I'll directly answer the question, how do we cut costs? We have to look at which expenditures we can cut. There's discretionary expenditures, about 5.2 million. Of that, student services is something people might consider cutting. I'm telling you, I'm gonna put my foot down. Those are absolutely essential. There's no way we are cutting student services. Students need that. It's for their mental health, academic support, all of the above. Students absolutely need that. So where can we cut costs? Let's look at overhead costs, 1.2 to 1.5 million. Those come under administration, HR. We have to optimize systems. We can implement automation systems and a variety of other systems and actually look into the nitty-gritty of it. You really have to take a deep dive at every single dollar being spent. You can't just throw $1,000 here because it seems insignificant to the overall budget. And once you do that, it compounds up and you can actually save money and cut costs.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, would anyone like to use their additional response time? Okay, moving on.
Sorry.
Yes, okay.
So I feel like raising fees, they should never be the only solution. Before asking students to pay more, we should really also focus on examining our own operational efficiencies and streamline expenditure. Streamline has been a keyword from this morning. I was on the live, and we should really expand revenues and create a win-win situation between us, partnerships, and also student startups supporting on-campus innovation and benefiting students on campus.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, moving on then. Not all student-facing funds are fully disclosed and published on the AMS's website, but every year candidates talk about financial transparency. What specific information isn't available to students? What does financial transparency mean to you, and how do you plan to accomplish this? Please be specific. We'll be starting with Audrey.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Financial transparency is really the key to improving every aspect of the finance committee. And I feel when I go to the website of the AMS grants and fees, it's very overly convoluted. There's 23, if not more, grant categories. And so one of my goals is really to consolidate and review, say, inactive grant streams and really consolidate all the grants into streams that actually reflects demands of the students. And this way we will also create a win-win situation of reducing admin inefficiencies. And also students will have a clearer view of
Thank you, candidate.
I'll kind of take that in two parts. I think it's important to, one, have the financial reports being reported on time. I personally said on my platform, I want a public dashboard of what the AMS is spending, because the student body deserves to know where the AMS is spending their money, because it's the student body's money. Secondly, I think student input is absolutely essential. That's why I'm willing to host forums and actually get student questions, take their feedback, take their comments, and see how we can improve. Unfortunately, over the last year, the AMS has not been financially transparent, and they don't want to talk around that. That leads to students being angry. That's why students have protests. We actually need to be transparent. We actually need to post what the AMS is spending, and we actually need to have conversations with students to see why they are angry and why they are not in favor of certain things.
Thank you, candidate. Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, transparency is a core part of any student union. We need to be transparent. I think specifically on the part that Iman brought up about having the financial reports on time. That's something that's also really important. Again, I think that financial, we have the financial reports on our council page, not specifically under the finances part of our website. And we also have audited statements that were given at our general meeting this past October, and they were presented to council in an open session. So I think it's really important to be transparent to our student body in general.
Thank you, candidate. Does anyone want to use? No?
Yes, I would like to use it. I mean, I think this is a bare minimum requirement that financial reports are being posted on time. And I mentioned this on my platform, and I had to say it over 3 times that the financial reports for 2025, 2026, Q1, Q2 have not been posted. That should have been posted months ago. That should have been posted in 2025. There's absolutely no excuse for this kind of slip up. right? If students want to be able to look at the budget, want to be able to make some comments, have questions, they need these financial reports, and unfortunately the AMS has not delivered on that.
Thank you, candidate.
So it's one thing to publish the financial statement, but to be honest, I don't think an average student will be looking through those statements. It's very important to simplify those reports into a more accessible form. I plan to build a direct communication channel either through Slack or Discord and for the VPF office. And being transparent will ensure equitable resource distribution. Currently, the athletic funds are receiving way more funding from others. It doesn't mean that it's not equal. It's just we need to review the distribution to make sure that it's equitable.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, moving on to the next question. AMS services have seen an exponential growth in usage over the past few years. How do you plan to ensure services continue to receive adequate funding without draining other parts of the budget? We'll be starting with Iman.
100%, and I've already mentioned that student services are absolutely essential. So what do we need to do? One, we've been in a deficit. I mean, I believe the predicted revenue or surplus this year was 3K, and it's supposed to be, according to the 3-year financial plan from 2024, it's supposed to be 185K a year to get rid of the deficit. That's one aspect. AMS businesses are not being run properly, and I have no idea why this hasn't been done over the last year. No idea why student input hasn't been taken into consideration, and no idea why marketing initiatives are not being taken into consideration. Specifically on the student services on how to support that. One is, yes, we will, obviously if the fee referendum passes, that makes it easier, but assuming the fee referendum doesn't pass, I would say we are able to take, assuming a 2% plus growth in the endowment fund, you can take out 2% of that according to the policy. And I think it is absolutely important to even take money out of that to support student services.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, services are super important, core part of the AMS in general. And again, I think we need to start reallocating funding, especially in terms of things like awards gala, block party, right? These are not as necessary as some of the core services that are that's provided to the AMS. Yeah.
Thank you, candidate. Audrey?
So we really need to look at this through a long-term perspective. So in the short run, we are asking for fee rise, but in the long term, we really need to make sure that we do have enough in our unrestricted fund to support the essential student services. So right now we're doing lots of interfund transfer that actually indicates the need for consolidating grant and fee streams into fewer streams and more flexible structure so that we don't have to do all those transfers and also by educating students on public benefits of health dental, including mental resources, we can actually reduce the pressure on claims with 4 million claim mental service alone the first half year. We really need to get this going.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, moving on to the next question. Delays in club reimbursements have also been an issue in past years, but this year's VP Finance Office expanded access to pre-approved purchases to aid the issue. How do you plan to curb delays in club reimbursements and maintain strong working relationships with club treasurers? Nathan, we'll be starting with you.
Yeah, I think there's multiple things we need to do. One is on just the treasurer training side and then also the system side. So for training, again, one of the things I'm proposing is just to have more a detailed treasurer training session, multi-session program over the summer, specifically going over the reimbursement process. I think we're seeing that some treasurers, they might not submit things correctly. So looking at that and seeing what needs to be done there. Also, moving away from reimbursements in general. So for example, the credit card request form. This is a program that we introduced where if you had over $500 in expenses, you can request to use the AMS credit card instead of reimbursements. And we've had a lot of traction with that.
Thank you, candidate. Audrey?
Sorry, so there's two ways. First is to improve communication. Second is to improve our own efficiencies. For our own efficiencies, I promise a 48-hour max response time for all emails and reimbursement requests, and this will be achieved by trying to phase out the email requesting and instead use a Google form intake, so that can be integrated with other existing platforms such as APIs, and also we can improve our communication with the treasurers by direct communication on Slack or Discord, and I'll also offer flexible in-person and Zoom office hours. And basically we'll transition.
Thank you, candidate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've spoken to clubs, and this is why clubs endorse me, because I'm actually going to work on this, and this hasn't been done. So firstly, I want to bring a training program that is comprehensive. You have to understand treasurers don't always know finance. They're not expected to know every step of the way. I'm going to build it from scratch, expecting that this person has no finance experience at all, to build a training program that is very comprehensive. Secondly, we have to consider that a treasury turnover is a common thing amongst clubs. What happens if a treasurer leaves and there's a new treasurer who comes in who doesn't know anything? I am saying that we will set up a one-on-one call with that treasurer to make sure that the AMS actually supports this new person coming into a position that they don't have experience with. And additionally, I think transparent communication is absolutely important. Not just telling the treasurers that they can reach out to us, but we actually have to reach out to them and take those extra hours.
Thank you, candidate. If there's no additional response time, then we'll move on to hearing.
Yes, I would like to respond on that. And one thing I've been told by club treasurers is that over the summer, having a treasurer training program is typically, one, it cannot be effective because club treasurers are all over the world. One person I spoke to was in China. They had to take a Zoom call at 2 a.m. It doesn't make sense. So actually having videos and guides available where they can do it in their own time is super important. And another thing I think has been suggested by Nathan is to have in-person sessions in the summer. People are all over the world. That wouldn't make sense, and that doesn't work for club treasurers.
Thank you, candidate.
Yeah, I think we can do both. I think we can do in-person and online sessions. And that's what we did in the past as well. Again, having 30, 40 people, practicals, actually submitting things, I think that's super important. A lot of treasurers, they come into the role and they're just not familiar with the processes. So actually going through, submitting things, walking them through is super important.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think it's very beneficial to have a page or an existing video that outlines frequently asked questions, so Q&A page that treasurers, they often have the same questions, they can review that. Also, just want to reiterate how important it is to reduce those admin bottlenecks so that club leaders, they can really focus on their impactful work. And good job, everyone.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, we'll be moving on to closing remarks now. We'll be starting with Audrey.
So in closing, I really propose a plan that's focused on long-term sustainability of the finance. So it's not a just quick fix. This isn't about a 1 year or single term. It's about laying the groundwork so that AMS, we can really thrive for years to come. So by taking on the challenges and optimize resources and encouraging sustainability practices, we really ensure our future students can benefit as well. So we should really look beyond immediate pressures and focus on what's really best in the long run and choose a vision that really ensures that our way have lasting success. And I'll be honored to lead us into this future. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Go ahead.
So in terms of what I want to do, it's really important to understand what the AMS has failed to do over this past year. And that's where I really want to put my emphasis on. The AMS businesses have been underperforming their revenues, and there's been no actions taken to actually market these businesses, make them do better. And if these businesses are marketed better, that could lead to opportunities for student employment because these businesses actually have the capacity to increase the amount of employees they have. This has not been done. Financial transparency has not been at the forefront of the AMS at all, right? Missing a quarterly financial report just makes no sense at all, and student input has not been taken into consideration at all. We have to understand that these businesses and consumers are all students. Student input is essential. These businesses need to work for students, and if they don't work for students, they're going to continue making losses the way they have been over the past while. Now, considering some other things on my platform I really quickly want to touch on, the AMS Food Bank, I want to use our negotiating power and negotiate with as many local grocers as possible and Tiffin services to get the best rates for students. Also, I want to end on touching on, an opponent may say that I don't have experience, but I have experience.
Yeah, again, I think one of my main focuses is supporting clubs, right? A detailed treasurer handbook, these one-on-one treasurer training sessions through the summer, streamlining the reimbursement process, invoice payments, JVs, reimbursements, all into one platform. I think it's really going to be helpful for clubs. Again, increasing mental health benefits. I didn't really get to talk on this a lot, but the health and dental plan, we've had 3 years of stagnation with the health and dental plan. no, I want to increase mental health benefits. I want to also add flexible plans as well. Flexible plans focus on health, vision, dental, also different tiers, an enhanced care plan and a basic tier plan. This is something that UVic and SFU have both done. It's something they've set the precedent. It's not like it's a completely uncommon process. And then lastly, a comprehensive review of our businesses, right? Focusing on student input. I think that's really important. Student surveys, focus group, menu testing. These are all things of taking that input and how do we grow with that.
Thank you, candidate. And with that, we come to the end of the VP Finance debate. We'll be back at 2:45 for VP AUA. Thank you, everyone.
to do the VP debates. I'll turn it over to the Ubyssey.
Thank you. Okay. Welcome everyone to the VP debate. We get started, hosted by the AMS Elections and moderated by us at the Ubyssey. For debate rules, candidates are not permitted to use laptops. You can have a piece of paper with printed notes or a pencil. You'll have 1 minute to make an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement after all questions are done. You will be given 45 seconds to address moderator and audience questions, followed by an additional 30-second response time, which you can use if you'd like. I will give you a 15-second and 5-second heads up, and please stop speaking once your time is up. Do you have any questions before we get started?
Do I have to turn the mic on myself each time, or is it just?
You can just keep it on and then maybe just put it away for you.
Okay.
Since you are the only. Yeah. Okay. If that is all, then we'll get started with your opening statement. Go ahead. You have a minute.
Hi, my name is Gia Panchi, and I'm running for VP, sorry, I used to saying AVP, VP Academic and University Affairs, because UBC should be a place where students are able to learn in an equitable and affordable way. Right now, too many students are financially burdened. When 62% of students say they've gone without a textbook or course material due to the cost, that is not a personal budgeting issue, it's an academic access issue. As VP AUA, I will push for real affordability measures for required materials, practical transparency like centralized syllabi and exam databases, and a stronger student voice where decisions get made. I've spent this past year gaining experience in student governance as the AVP admin, where I've been able to deliver tangible results for students. I'm ready to bring that same energy to academic advocacy and deliver changes students will actually feel.
Thank you, candidates. On to the first question. Some food security initiatives on campus, like Sprouts and Agora, have raised concern after no longer being able to attend FSI funding allocation meetings. Would you advocate to allow these groups back into FSI meetings, and how do you plan to ensure funding is being adequately distributed across the different groups?
So 2021 was the first time that AMS clubs, including Sprouts, got food security funding, so approximately $1.9 million from UBC. On the topic of food insecurity, which is very salient to students, having a wide array of representatives in the room with UBC only dilutes our ability to actually secure money. So as VP AUA, I'm committed to securing and maintaining the $800,000 multi-year commitment for FSIs from the VP Students Office, including support for the AMS Food Bank and undergraduate society initiatives.
Thank you, candidates. While UBC has continued to commit funding for food security, there is no formal memorandum of understanding in place with UBC for annual funding. Would your office work towards an MOU, and if so, how would you succeed where your predecessors have failed in obtaining one?
Sorry, an MOU in
A memorandum of understanding.
in food security
Yes.
initiatives? Yeah, I mean, in terms of food security initiatives, the role of the VP AUA is to look at the data that is provided to us and work with the groups to ensure that the calls are made appropriately as to where money and funding is being allocated so that the appropriate individuals are getting what they need. So that's what I'd be doing in terms of FSIs.
Thank you, candidate. Last year's academic experience survey, a key source of VP AUA advocacy data, saw a 48% decrease in survey responses. How do you plan to engage students with survey fatigue, and what do you think the role of the AES plays in your overall advocacy?
Yeah, the AES is a really important survey in getting data as to understanding how students feel in terms of textbook costs and the statistics that we're able to take from that. We bring forward as an office in terms of advocating for OERs and course materials and things of the sort. In terms of getting students to engage with the survey, I would like to increase engagement on the AMS Instagram account and putting that out there and telling students, as the largest stakeholders in the university, the importance of filling that out so we can make appropriate decisions.
Thank you, candidate. The province has recently ended their drug decriminalization pilot program, and the toxic drug crisis has been a public health emergency in BC since 2016. Does your platform include harm reduction, and if so, what specifically would you advocate for?
So my platform is not entirely inclusive of harm reduction in particular, but I can address that now. In terms of harm reduction, I would like to increase drug testing sites and also messaging out there in terms of testing strips and ensuring that students that are consuming are getting their drugs tested. And ensuring that consumption is safe overall, and ensuring that messaging is clear for all students on campus.
Thank you, candidate. The VP AUA portfolio also includes advocating for sexual violence policies and preventions on campus. Is this part of your platform, and what would your specific goals be?
Yeah, in terms of my platform, working with AMS services such as SASC is something that is important. In communicating with SASC and ensuring that services are provided and that there is no back end in terms of backlog in terms of the services that we're able to provide. And so yeah, that in part is why the fee referendum is important in ensuring that students are able to get the services and AMS is able to provide services to students at the same level that is demanded.
Thank you, candidate. This year, the Ubyssey Vancouver Tenants Union put pressure on the university to introduce a residential tenancy act-like policy for Ubyssey housing. They also want a rent freeze. Are these moves you would support? How would you convince the university to do this while they are under financial pressure?
Yeah, in terms of housing, I am in support of advocating for a rent freeze. My platform in terms of housing, I acknowledge that housing is something that intersects heavily with academic impact as housing insecurity affects learning and retention. In terms of housing, I would like to advocate and ensure that the 3,300 beds promised by Ubyssey Campus Vision Plan 2050 is in motion and that the progress that is taking place in that is not slow. Is being done in an appropriate timeline. So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, candidate. Next up, tell us how you've been preparing for the role. Who have you been talking to? What have you been reading? Where do you think you'll still need to grow to successfully represent students?
Yeah, in terms of preparing for the role, I've been in the office since May as AVP admin, and so I've been in communication with the AVPs within the AUA role. As well as Zarifa herself. And so I've been kind of being able to have conversations as to what's being worked on, the budget submission, when it was being worked on, in talking with AVPs in the department. And so, yeah, in terms of preparing, I've been looking at the AES survey and looking at the data on topics that are salient to students. And just overall looking at the AES survey and speaking with the AVPs.
Thank you, candidate. Would you like to use your additional response time for this? Okay. And with that, we'll be moving on to your closing remarks. You have a minute.
So in terms of running, I do acknowledge that I am running uncontested in this race, but I would like to strongly encourage all students to vote, because at the end of the day, voting is what keeps me accountable to all students, in ensuring that I am delivering the results that I am advocating for in my platform. I'm here to deliver tangible results because at the end of the day, anyone can claim to be an advocate, but what a true advocate does is deliver tangible results. And so I strongly encourage everyone to vote and to place their confidence in me as a VP AUA. As AVP admin, I've been able to allocate $100,000 in funding for students and student groups, and I'd like to continue that advocacy forward in the VP AUA portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. And with that, that comes to the end of the VP AUA debate. We'll be back at 3:10 for the presidential debate.
ready to debate, so I'll turn it over back to you.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, welcome to the last debate of the day. So it is the presidential debate, hosted by AMS Elections and moderated by us at the Ubyssey. And you can follow along on the live stream on the AMS's website or ubyssey.ca. Go over housekeeping rules one last time. No laptops for any candidates, but you may have a printed piece of paper or blank paper with a pen. Candidates will have 1 minute to make an opening statement and a minute for a closing statement. There is an online form being circulated to collect audience questions, and a reminder that candidates and volunteers from any of your campaigns cannot submit questions. Candidates will each have 45 seconds to address moderator or audience questions, followed by an additional 30-second response time if you would like to use it. I will give you a 15-second and 5-second warning when your time is almost up. Please stop talking when your time is up. And yeah, that is it. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Okay, cool. We will be starting with opening remarks then. We're going to start with Dylan, and I'll just go back and forth. When you go. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey everyone, my name is Dylan. I'm running to be your next AMS president. During my time at Ubyssey, I've been a club VP, winning Sustainability Club of the Year, Forestry VP, and FUS president, winning Constituency of the Year. As your VP admin, I released Nest bookings before the first day of classes for the first time in AMS history. Last year, I promised students I would fix the AMS's booking system, expand sustainability initiatives, and bring printers to the Nest. I've already completed 100% of my campaign promises, and I'm on track to complete 100% of my executive goals, which I will do again as your next AMS president. I look forward to creating a comprehensive academic resourcing center, securing more club, constituency, and student spaces, increasing housing, financial aid, and food security funding, and making Ubyssey a fun campus with coordinated campus-wide events and Thunderbird spirit.
Thank you, candidate. Jasper, go ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jasper. At Ubyssey, I've served a combined 3 years on the Ubyssey Senate and Board of Governors, and over 2 years on AMS Council, where I chaired 3 committees. I managed staff and volunteer teams, been responsible for millions of dollars and fought for students who won. These wins included hundreds of thousands of dollars in undergraduate research funding, $800,000 in continued food security funding, $40,000 minimum funding packages for PhD students, and a large number of policy changes. I've also been a club executive, a research group president for multiple years. And in all of this time, I've come to know the AMS pretty well. So well that the only notes I have is this opening statement. I'll be doing the rest without it. And I've seen that fundamentally the AMS needs to be doing better. It's forgotten to be a student union. It's forgotten to properly support our student organizations, provide adequate supports and services to all students, to be the voice of students, prioritize their needs and values, and act with moral clarity. I'm running to change that. As president, I will do the real work needed on affordability, food security, improving the student experience, supporting clubs and constituencies, and taking real steps on issues of moral clarity, including human rights and genocide. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Both of you have experience in student governance, but what differing experiences do you bring to the table that give you an advantage? Jasper?
Yeah, so the president has to manage all aspects of the AMS's portfolios, including, of course, the executives, but also the permanent staff, the departments, and of course, university and government relations as well. I've done all of that work on council. I've been on council for 2+ years. I've chaired a number of committees and a number of portfolios and worked very closely in basically every portfolio in the AMS rather than just one. I also, of course, have served on the board and Senate. I have deep relationships with the university administrators, which will be needed in the work that the president does. And of course, I've been a club and research group executive. I've been within constituencies and I understand all aspects of the AMS.
Thank you, candidate. Dylan?
Yeah, so I'm a current sitting AMS VP, and that really gives me an insight into the office and how the AMS works, a better understanding of the day-to-day and how we actually serve students than any other candidate in this race. I've been in the constituency space. I've been, like I said, a constituency president. I understand what it fundamentally means to support students across every level, from clubs to constituencies to representing 60,000 students as VP admin. I've also advocated to faculty. My faculty, I've gotten wins on the faculty level, and I've delivered on every promise that I've made.
Thank you, candidate. Would anyone like to use their additional response time? Okay, let's move on. What do you perceive as the major issue facing students, your constituents, and what is the role and purpose of our student union as it is related to those issues? Dylan?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the role of the student union is to act as a megaphone for the student voice and represent every need that the students have. And I think some of the major issues, obviously, we're in an affordability crisis. And I think it's really important to look at supporting our students as best we can on campus with affordability measures, with mental health measures, and that includes as I said, making campus fun and providing opportunities for students to find their communities on campus and sort of make friends. And especially when looking at kind of the orientation side, when students first come to university and they need to make friends, I think it's important that we are working to address that.
Thank you, candidate. Jasper?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. What do you perceive as the major issues facing students, your constituents, and what is the role and purpose of our student union as it relates to those issues?
Yeah, I think Dylan mentioned it, but the number one thing, of course, affecting students is affordability and a whole wide range of issues. And the AMS has a lot of power to support that, both inside of the AMS, where, of course, I'm committed to using the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of unspent bursary money. I've committed to working to increase the coverage of the health and dental plan, including $1,500 coverage for mental health. The AMS also needs to be doing work to advocate for affordability mechanisms, including food security, where I've done the work to already ensure that the $800,000 is continued, and I'll continue to work to push that up to $1.2 million. But food security, of course, the AMS can do some stuff with its own money, and I intend to do that, both including using money from State Level Projects Fund, which has quite a bit of money in its reserves, but also has spent less money than it took in many of the last couple of years.
Thank you, candidate. Each executive is elected separately with their own goals. How will you unite a team beyond a common mission when you all start with independent mandates? Jasper?
There we are. So I've spent, of course, the last 2 years on council, and so I've seen this happen quite a few times. Of course, seeing the executive goal process, seeing quite a bit of areas where there's maybe overlap or even conflict between executives. And I sat on EPA, the Executive Performance and Accountability Committee, where I, of course, served as chair and vice chair for a period of time. I have seen very clearly that this is something that can happen, and so I've been thinking about that quite a lot. One thing that I think is really important to recognize is that executives get elected on a mandate from students. And so when we're working this out, you have to really make sure that the things that you're about to do is a priority. And even if there's some disagreement, the thing that comes first is the student voices. When there might be conflict even in those areas, that is, I think, fundamentally right for council to make this work, but as president, I would hope that communication happens.
Thank you, candidate. Bill?
Yeah, so I served on council for 2 years now, one as an executive. I previously served on EPA as a counselor, and I've had lived experience this year as an executive, actually living and working through the process of executive goals, of working with other executives. Yes, I've been a constituency executive, a president of a constituency where I've worked with and coordinated with and managed a team of executives, even larger than an AMS team. And unlike the candidates sitting next to me, I've actually lived through and experienced working with other AMS executives on our independent mandates from students.
Thank you, candidate. Jasper, go ahead.
One I think really good example of this actually is one of the goals that both the VP admin here and the president had this year, which is migration of room bookings. There are times not only where there's conflict between goals, but there's also overlap between goals, and many people have run on this. What I've seen this year is there needs to be a little bit more accountability in that area, because I've seen pretty regularly the president in his office has done a lot of the heavy lifting on that, including him being the one in the office over the winter break to push through room bookings and make sure they got in on time, including the managing director also being in the office at the time. So that's something that's also really important to consider is when that overlap happens.
Thank you, candidate. Dylan, did you want to use?
Yeah, I'll just say that over the winter break, I foregoed having taken vacation so that I could work on this issue. council made it a part of my core duty, and within 3 months, for the first time in Nest history, I got room bookings out by the first day of classes. That's an unprecedented improvement in the room booking system, and I'm very proud of that, and I think clubs realize and students realize the changes and the work that I've put in, and yeah, we're just happy with that.
Thank you, candidate. Moving on. Our student union has a history of workplace culture problems, especially within the executive teams. Are you prepared to promise students you'll lead a team with no resignations, leaves of absences, or spurious investigations? How will you lead a team that breaks from the past? Dylan, starting with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've already said, I've been a constituency president. I know what it means fundamentally to work with other VPs and respect their independent mandate, while also working with them and coordinating with them to support their own initiatives while working together on my own initiatives. Progress on all goals across the AMS to work better for students. And I think just fundamentally being an executive and working with other executives and collaborating on projects gives me a better understanding that the other candidate just simply cannot know when working with the executives and just working well in the office.
Thank you, candidate. Jessica?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I have managed my own teams and quite large teams with quite large budgets, including staff teams, not just volunteer teams. One of the things I will say to your question is, of course, I am committed to make sure that there are none of those things in relation to maybe any workplace issues. I don't want to promise that there will never be any resignations. I think it's reasonable to recognize there are in times in the past that have happened for personal reasons that are separate from the culture of the AMS. When it comes to issues that are caused by the culture of the AMS, that is certainly something I would commit to ensure that doesn't happen. As HR committee chair this year, I brought forward a series of proposals to increase executive benefits and well-being to try and support that. I've also working on reviewing the policy to ensure that executives get a transition in the beginning of the year that sets them up for success and able to manage their team successfully, be managed successfully, and have a better culture.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, moving on. This year's AGM that formed for the 4th time in 40 years. How do you plan to engage the student body and show students there is importance in coming to events like the AGM? Jasper?
I mean, first things first, I am committing to work to get another board AGM. I think it's a really important way that the AMS can reach out to students. As the governance committee chair that was participating in quite a bit of the work in relation to bylaw changes that came to the AGM, I was pretty active in discussions around how to increase turnout for that. I think this year was very successful, and so that would be a model I would be following. I think the giveaway model works very well, and I think the Q&A model is really important to students. There was a lot of questions that were asked there that people really wanted to get them to do. I think I will say there's maybe some areas of engagement that could be improved, even just on the technical side of things, to make sure there's more opportunity for more questions to get answered. But certainly, I would intend to have a board AGM, and I will be following through the work that I started this year.
Thank you, candidate. Dylan?
Yeah, I think a fundamental part of having students engaged is having transparency with our operations and ease of understanding for what we're doing. I think something we've seen lacking this year with code change after code change after code change at council. It's hard for even counselors to keep up, let alone students. I would commit to having easy to read and understandable one-pagers before each code change and having them amalgamated into one so that students can really understand what is happening. I think that's something we've seen lacking from the governance committee this year. And especially surrounding the bylaws, the AGM, something we saw this year was a severe lack of consultation and a really rushed process on implementing the bylaws and putting them forward to the AGM. So I think consulting the student body broadly, doing that again is certainly a room for improvement that I
Thank you, candidate. Would anyone like to use their additional response time? Jasper?
Yeah, I'll say on that, there was actually one page around the bylaws. I will say there was multiple months of consultations, including with the executive committee and Dylan, including with resource groups and subsidiaries who were mentioned in the bylaws, those groups, including resource groups who we work with to enshrine there. It was a long consultation process, including many times with the executive committee.
Thank you, candidate. Dylan, did you want to use your?
Yeah, I will say as an executive in the room at executive committee, it simply was a rushed process. We simply were not consulted enough. And as well, I'm not talking about, one-pagers on bylaws. I'm talking about one-pagers for every single thing we do so that students can really keep track of what their student society is doing and, using a consent agenda less so things aren't just pushed through and students actually can know what is happening and be informed.
Thank you, candidates. Council recently endorsed a referendum item that would call on the AMS to advocate to UBC to cut ties with Israeli universities. While the endorsement passed, it was a close vote. What do you think the AMS's role is in advocating for larger international issues that students raise concern over? Dylan, starting with you.
Yeah, so I think certainly like the role of the president is to act as the megaphone of the student body. If the students are, concerned about something or something is affecting them on a fundamental level, it will be my role as president to advocate for the things that are, that the students would like to see pushed forward. And if that is, the referendum that we endorse at council, then that is the democratic process, and that is what I will follow to the T and act as this megaphone for each and every student voice.
Thank you, candidate. Jasper?
I move for the motion to endorse that referendum, so I think my position on it is pretty clear. I think the AMS needs to do better in advocating for positions that it already has, including since 2022, the last referendum. I think that past year's executive have just not done enough to follow through on the commitments that they made to students. This item particularly is one that's in my platform. It's something I advocated for the Senate. It's something I will continue to do. And that will happen whether or not a referendum gets on the ballot. I'm glad this referendum did, but I would have done that either way. And I absolutely support the AMS taking strong stances on issues of international human rights and of genocide.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, next up. What haven't you gotten a chance to talk about sorry, Jasper.
I just have a question for my opponent, because I noted that it wasn't in the answer. I was wondering if you could clearly state your stance on the referendum as an individual.
You can use your additional response time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. A yes endorsement was passed, and that's what I support. As a member of the student body, then yes.
Okay, thank you, candidates. Moving on. What haven't you gotten a chance to talk about today that is important to your platform? Starting with Jasper.
There's a very large number of issues. One of the things I want to talk about is club and subsidiary support. As a part of this campaign, I've reached out to a large number of clubs. I've met with a large number of clubs, a large number of undergraduate societies and student associations. And there's a number of issues that I hear very repeatedly from those issues. Room bookings is always one of them. Reimbursements is always one of them. Email response times and communications is one of them. A pretty significant part of my platform is supporting them in all of these areas, and not just supporting them because I think we've seen in the past by making some minor policy changes, but actually doing the work that's needed to hire the staff, to find the money, including money out of the Clubs Benefit Fund that last year a large portion of it was used on a word scale. I think we've better places for that money. Really finding the deep areas to support our clubs, their subsidiaries is needed because we've fallen incredibly short.
Thank you, candidate. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think certainly on the clubs and subsidiaries support side, I've met with over, I think, half of our clubs. It's been my goal this year to meet with every single club and hear what the leader of every single club has to say and what their issues are. I've met with probably over half of the constituencies now to hear the issues, and I have worked on them. We got room bookings out on the first day of classes for the first time in Nest history. We implemented a virtual and online booking for equipment and for equipment lending that has seen 100% utilization now. I think answering your emails shouldn't be a campaign promise. It should be the basics, and that's what I've been doing this year. And what I will continue to do next year is support our subsidiaries as I have been this year and into the future.
Thank you, candidate. Jasper, additional response time?
I agree that answering emails shouldn't have to be a campaign promise, but unfortunately when I've talked to these groups, they've said that this has been an issue, including out of your office, and so it's something that I want to make sure is addressed. On a number of other things I think is very important to note. Room bookings, for example, one of the things that I was a little bit concerned about is we didn't hit that target over the first term. That was something that was committed to, but didn't end up happening. And even on the second term, the first come first served booking system, which we committed to do early, didn't happen until a quarter of the way through the term. So that's something I would also address.
Thank you, candidate. Dylan, did you want to?
Yeah, I think if the candidate to my right, to my left, actually was paying attention at council, they would see that my office and myself have put forward a plethora of solutions and implementations that we will be doing over the rest of the term. First term was we were looking at assessing the situation, and we've acted on the issues that we've identified from the booking system that's been in place for 10 years, and we have fundamentally solved it. And we have recommendations going forward in the future, such as implementing a permanent staff to fully support our team. And we've already resourced that out by adding more staff to the process.
Thank you, candidate. Okay, we'll be moving on to closing remarks now. Dylan, go ahead.
Extending add-drop deadline, no punitive attendance grades, academic hardship periods increased to 48 hours, exam database, textbook cost cap, ending unethical international partnerships, tuition freeze, divestment from ties to human rights violations, expanding UBC's fossil fuel divestment commitments, free required lab equipment. These are only 10 of the 35 promises that Jasper has made on the ballot over their 2 years as a senator and 1 year as a governor. They have demonstrated a tremendous and 100% track record of failing to deliver on all 35 promises. If someone can be on the highest governing body of UBC and continue to not deliver a single promise made on the ballot, that's not someone prepared to be AMS president. I've delivered on my promises to students, and I'm on track to complete 100% of my executive goals. The AMS needs another year of stability, not experiments, and certainly not the lack of competence sitting next to me today. Vote on March 9th and vote for Dylan.
Thank you, candidate. Jasper, go ahead.
Lack of confidence, strong words. I had something else I was going to say, but I think it's worth to respond to that first. I think what I said there is unequivocally not true. There's been quite a bit of this goals that's very, very significant progress. Commitments have been made by the university. If you paid attention to that, if you showed up to the Senate Student Caucus and things, you would recognize this. I think another thing that I want to say is I have been the chair of EPA, so I'm EPA for 2 years. I've been vice chair. I only stepped down from EPA because I wanted to make sure there was no potential conflicts of interest during this election. And what I'll say is those goals are not completed. I've been directly responsible for evaluating them, and so many of them have not been completed. And that's very worrying to me. You need a president that's able to fulfill the promises that they make, and that has not happened. That being said, I am looking forward to putting forth a positive vision and vote Jasper.ca. Please look at all things that I intend to do, the experience that I have that will make sure that I'll be able to complete those goals. And I appreciate everyone coming out to listen to us all today, and I hope you vote for me on Monday. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Candice. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. That's the end of the debates. I'll turn it back to the elections team.
Thank you so much. That concludes the great debate. Just a reminder that voting is from March 9th to 13th, so please go out and vote. And yeah, thank you so much.